Good afternoon, everybody. The meeting is about to start, and I'm just going to run through a couple of slides just to let you know how this meeting is going to go. So this is the Meet the GSEU webinar on groundwater, and we'll be looking at how the GSEU project supports the quality and quantity of Europe's groundwater resources towards a sustainable future for Europe. We will be recording the webinar, so you will be able to access it after the meeting. Your microphones are muted by default. If you have any questions or wish to interact, you can use the hand raise in the controls for the webinar, or please use the Q&A to answer any questions. Or any other issues, please use the chat. I'll be monitoring that as we go through the meeting. Our agenda is I will do a brief overview of the GSEU project. And then Peter van der Keur of GEUS will be introducing the work package which is the GSEU Groundwater Resources work package. And then we will hear from Julie and Stefan on the quality and quantity of Europe's groundwater. Following the short talks, there will be a Q&A session which will be moderated by Klaus from GEUS, and if you could save your questions until then, that would be great. I'd like to introduce you to our speakers. I'm a communications advisor and I work with EGS, and I'm also the communications lead for the GSEU project. Peter van der Keur is a senior scientist with GEUS, and he's in charge of the whole work package and will be introducing his colleagues, Julie Lyons from BRGM, who will be speaking about quality, and Stefan Broda from BGR, who will be telling us about the quantity of Europe's groundwater. And Klaus is the Deputy Department Chair for Water Resources of the EGS expert group, and he will be moderating the Q&A session at the end. Just a quick look at the different areas of the Geological Service for Europe. We cover a number of areas which I will expand on in the next presentation. Thank you. Excuse me. So the Geological Service for Europe is, our tagline is bringing the subsurface into the light. And what we're trying to do is bring together all of the knowledge and understanding of geology that is found in geological surveys across Europe in order to inform policy, inform everyone from policy level right down to citizens. So why do we need, it's not working, excuse me. So why do we need a geological service for Europe? Well, put quite simply, we are reaching crisis point in several areas to do with geology. We're looking at a shortage of resources in critical raw materials, in energy, in groundwater, and in those elements of our life that make our life easy. So if you look at the press around the world, you can see that this is something that is coming up very high, and it's not just a problem that is faced by the EU, it's actually an international crisis, and we do need to be looking at that. So in order to achieve that, we need high quality subsurface data, and this is at the heart of GSEU. We know that pan-European problems require pan-European efforts and solutions. So we are working together to bring all of that data that is inherent in all of our geological surveys into one place, to make it accessible, to make it harmonized, and to make it useful for our future. At the heart of the GSEU project is EGDI, which is the European Geological Data Infrastructure, and this will be the outward-facing part of everything that we do. We are a consortium of 48 partners across 35 countries with a huge amount of expertise and skill and knowledge that we are all bringing to bear on solving some of the problems that we have before we can have a sustainable future. So this is the objective of the GSEU project: to build a high quality database with a standardized vocabulary, shared principles and an open framework, a free and open framework that is available to everybody. And this will help to enable and accelerate the green transition and meet the EU's net zero aims. Given that that basis of a geological framework, a 3D geological framework, we will be able to inform policy. We will be able to make good decisions for the future sustainability of citizens across Europe. The Green Deal policy and all of our Earth systems are interconnected. We can't do all of the things that we need to do for a sustainable future without that that basis of understanding, that basis of information and data that is inherent in the GSEU project. So the consortium, as I said, is 48 partners from across 35 countries, and these are our aims. We look at the different areas of raw materials, geoenergy, groundwater, coast and sea, and that's around coastal erosion and the siting of wind farms, and then the geological framework setup. All of this comes together in the European Geological Data Infrastructure, known as EGDI, which is openly accessible in its current state and will be improved incredibly over the next 3 to 4 years. A large part of the project is stakeholder engagement. We need to make people aware of what we're doing, and that's the reason for these webinars and for all of the other work that we're doing to communicate the project to our individual stakeholders at policy level and beyond. And that's it. That's the Geological Service for Europe. The project is working towards a standalone Geological Service for Europe, which will enable all of these things to continue past the end of the project. Thank you. So I would like to hand you over now to Peter van der Keur, who will give you an insight into the work package focusing on groundwater. Peter.
Yes, thank you, Tracey. Can you hear me, everybody? Good afternoon to everybody, and thanks, Tracey, for the nice introduction. I'll share my screen. I hope everybody can see it now.
Peter, can you share the?
Yes, can you see it?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. So I will give you a short overview of the groundwater resources part of the GSEU project, on the quantity and the quality of groundwater, and my colleagues will afterwards come into more detail on these specific parts. As you all know, there are main challenges with respect to groundwater, both on the quality and the quantity, and it's estimated that about 30% of the aquifers in Europe are insufficient to meet the need of ecosystem population, and this becomes worse with increasing population and different subsurface uses of including the groundwater. And as you can see, also groundwater supplies is for 65% of drinking water and 25% of the irrigation. So it is a very huge and very important resource. So the objectives of the groundwater part is first of all to have a harmonized information on both groundwater quantity and quality. And for the quantity part, we develop an operational data-driven groundwater forecasting system. So both for the short and the long term, and this is of course very important to keep an eye on how groundwater level develops and as a proxy for groundwater availability, and this varies quite a lot across the European continent. And for the groundwater quality monitoring, we develop a monitoring system, and groundwater quality is dependent on both anthropogenic pressures, but also on the background, on the natural system, and that is what we try to map in this project. And there will be more information later by the specific tasks. So, what is the relevance of it? Clearly, what is important is a systematic reporting of the current and the future groundwater level developments. So doing the forecasting, the monitoring, the reporting, so to act in time on developments which may have negative consequences for groundwater. So to support sustainable groundwater management, also under climate change, of course. For the groundwater quality, it is very important that we know how the quality patterns are across Europe, so the large differences, and also to estimate how often, or what is the mobility and the persistence of the different types of contaminants. And so and this is of course also influenced by the increasing water demand on the climate change. So in a nutshell, you may say that the groundwater quantity is about this slide. So we collect data from all over Europe, and we store that in the European groundwater monitoring database, developing in this project for groundwater levels on the quantity part. We do the time series analysis to see how do the groundwater levels vary for the different parts of Europe, and how can we then use this information to do short and long-term monitoring and forecasting of groundwater, and all of this to support sustainable groundwater management. You all know that drought is a major issue in Europe, and so this is very relevant to monitor and to take action in time. Also, for the groundwater quality, it is important that we collect relevant data all over Europe, and we do analysis on how these contaminants they move across the continent. So analysis on the patterns, on the mobility and the persistence of contaminants. And this to then do analysis on quality patterns and drives and pressures and the competing uses, and all of this is stored in the database for later use. So you may say that if we do a recapping, we do both groundwater quantities or the groundwater levels as a proxy for groundwater availability. We have the groundwater quality, and from these two parts, we get results like observed and forecasted time series of how groundwater levels vary across the continent, but also on mapping groundwater quality as a function of anthropogenic and natural background. So anthropogenic contamination on a natural background. Who will benefit from the work? Some of the stakeholders were given when like the Commission, DGs on environment, climate, agriculture, but also environmental agencies are users of the results, regions, municipalities, water supply companies. And all of this we mapped through a questionnaire we sent to all the participating geological surveys to try to find out who's actually using it. And so here you can see many of and there are many more, and it's also very important to keep this updated. So we will once in a while try to revisit the users and to make sure that everything is updated and everything will be relevant also on the longer term. I think I'll keep it here, and I will give the word to one of my colleagues to give some more details about the groundwater quantity and quality work we do. Back to you, Tracey.
Thank you, Peter. I'd like to hand over now to Julie Lyons from BRGM. If you'd like to share your slides and we can go from there. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracey and Peter, for this introduction. And hello, everybody. So I'm going to present you the action on the groundwater quality. So this action is driven by Benjamin Lopez and me for BRGM, the French Geological Survey. We are also working to drive this action with Birgit Hansen from GEUS, the Danish Geological Survey, and Georgine Arnaud from the Catalonia. So this, what is the context of this action? We start with this context. Groundwater quality vary widely over Europe, also due to natural properties such as the geological, hydrogeochemical, and hydrological condition, but also due to drivers and pressures related to the land use and anthropogenic activities, leading to groundwater contamination. Moreover, across Europe, groundwater observation networks differ in monitoring setups from country to country. That can complicate the EU level assessment of groundwater chemical status. So here we aim to propose to work together to improve the understanding of these groundwater quality patterns and dynamics based on different approach, geostatistical, machine learning, and geochemical analysis of quality dataset with the ambition to map the determining factors and indicators of this groundwater quality. On the basis of this knowledge, there is a real need to provide a groundwater quality mapping based on harmonized approaches at EU scale. We aim to focus on the chemical properties that are relevant for environmental protection. We aim also to take into account the properties of the subsurface for trend detection and groundwater quality patterns, and also to consider the mobility and the persistence of contaminants in groundwater related to drivers, pressure, and uses under the conditions of climate change. What is our concept here? The idea is to determine the best way for long-term sustainable management and the efficient protection of groundwater resources under various pressure. That requires also a good understanding of the intrinsic characteristic of groundwater and the processes controlling water quality. Here we aim to collect groundwater data at EU scale, to harmonize this data and to analyze them, taking into account their ability to create comprehensive groundwater quality map. So this process ensures not only that groundwater data are available, but also that the data set is consistent and relevant to provide effective mapping of groundwater quality. This work will be based on three main results: pre-existing works. We have the EGDI infrastructure that can host and distribute maps. We have also the results provided during the previous project, GEUS Groundwater, where we have addressed at the EU scale different approaches to evaluate the nitrate transfer, to evaluate the vulnerability of groundwater using the drastic methods, and of course, all this collaborative work with the geological survey is based on the knowledge background of each team involved in these activities. The main goal is to have this transnational harmonized data gathering, monitoring, and evaluation of groundwater quality pattern and trend identification at this EU scale. So this work will be based on two main pillars. First, we will work. We are working on natural compounds, and we are addressing these compounds, taking into account the geological, the hydrogeological, and the hydrological condition. We have selected a number of compounds, such as the major ions, trace elements, and of course the physico-chemical parameters of groundwater. And the idea here is to have a static analysis of groundwater quality. The second pillar will address or is addressing the anthropogenic pollutants. Here we have selected a number of compounds of organic pollutants, such as pesticides, industrial compounds, and other organic pollutants, such as PFAS and pharmaceutics. And we will also include in our analysis the drivers, pressure, and uses that can influence the groundwater quality, such as the uses and the land use. And here we aim to provide a trend analysis of the groundwater quality linked with this pressure. The three, we will use three types of methodology. First pillar will be based on geostatistics, statistics, and machine learning to assess and classify the factors controlling the large-scale pattern in groundwater quality. The second pillar is linked with a tool that is a matrix of human activities vs groundwater pollutants. This matrix link between human activities and the emission of potential harmful pollutants into groundwater. And the third pillar is the assessment of the indicators and trend with the ambition to map selected groundwater pollutants and their evolution under drivers and pressure. The main expected result will be a map of probability for pollutants occurrences in groundwater. We will also provide an online tool for chemical visualization and analysis, and also an analysis of the nitrate trend assessment. So during the first months of the project, we have realized an inventory of the available data across Europe. 28 countries answered to this questionnaire about monitoring sites and data available. You can have here an extract of the result provided by the different countries. And the main challenge we have will be to collect heterogeneous kind of accessibility of data, and in some case we have to work with not publicly available data. So the ambition, to summarize this action, the idea is first to collect, to harmonize and integrate groundwater quality data at the EU scale, and to integrate our result in the EGDI platform following the OGC standards. Secondly, we aim to analyze the data, to use innovative methods such as the geostatistics and machine learning, and also the GIS, the hydrochemical data, and to process all this data to assess the groundwater quality pattern in relation to geological, hydrogeochemical, and hydrological settings, and to develop this data set and to share it in this EGDI platform. And finally, to provide visualization of this data with based on the application of methods at this EU scale level. And at the end, provide a map of groundwater quality pattern and the determining factors. And of course, all these results will be available through the EGDI web services. For my last slide, what is the relevance of this project to EU groundwater policy? We aim to support the evaluation of groundwater quality patterns to improve the understanding of natural groundwater quality and natural background levels, such as specified in the Groundwater Directive. We aim to support the assessment of groundwater quality pattern regarding the different type of contaminants in relation to the uses and the increasing water demands under the conditions of climate change, and to support current and future groundwater monitoring design to assess the water quality at this EU scale. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Julie. If we could save any questions till the end, if you have a question, please pop it in the Q&A session, and we will look at all of those together at the end. Okay, I'd like to hand over now to Stefan Broda, and he will be speaking to us on supporting the quantity of European groundwater resources.
Thank you, Tracey, and thank you for coming. Before I start, I would like to recognize the co-authors of this presentation, Mariana from BGR, Georgina and Ignacy from the Catalonian Geological Survey, John and Bendy from the British Geological Survey, and David from the Spanish Geological Survey. We can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so in Europe, groundwater quantity faces several challenges. So we got over extraction driven by agricultural, industrial and domestic demands, which leads to depleting aquifers faster than they can naturally recharge. And this then leads to declining groundwater levels and ultimately limiting availability. Now, in the context of climate change, this whole thing is aggravated because we got altering precipitation patterns. We see an increasing frequency and also severity of droughts, which then impact groundwater recharge rates. So, and also there is an uneven distribution of water resources across Europe, which means that some regions experience significant water scarcity, while others have abundant supplies. So this leads to a regional disparity in water stress. And this can be also seen on the image here, showing the water exploitation index, which measures the ratio of freshwater abstraction, so also including groundwater, to the total renewable freshwater resource in a given area, which is here expressed as a percentage. So higher values indicate greater pressure on water resources and also higher potential for scarcity or stress conditions. And looking at this, it becomes quite clear that this pressure is especially large in the south, but also in certain regions of Central Europe. So to effectively manage and protect Europe's groundwater resources, the collection of data and the comprehensive analysis of groundwater levels across the continent is quite imperative. And so that is why we focus on these key aspects listed here. So we need to make sure that our data is fair compliant, so findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And we use this data then for detecting and understanding trends at various scales. By doing so, we also facilitate the sharing and utilization of data across borders and disciplines. So the next thing is that we need to implement a drought detection system specifically tailored to identify early signs of water stress in our groundwater systems, so we can enable proactive responses. And finally, we want to use data-driven models to forecast groundwater levels at the near at the so-called near real-time monitoring sites. So with this predictive capability, we want to provide the essential for managing groundwater sustainably. And in this way, we allow for the anticipation of issues and the implementation of measures to prevent over-extraction and depletion. So we can go to the next slide, please. So, and this is also basically reflected in the workflow, which we follow throughout the project. So we can, the activities can be put in 4 categories, starting with the whole data management aspect, so collection, harmonization, etc. We then analyze these data using standardization procedures, drought detection measures and trends. And we also look into groundwater resilience, and finally we could get to short and long-term forecasting of our groundwater levels. And in the next few slides, we look into these activities in a bit more of detail. So first thing is the development of the European Groundwater Monitoring Database, the EGS-GSEU, which is basically a significant advancements in the effort to better manage the understanding of the quantitative status of our groundwater resources across the continent. So we systematically collect, harmonize, merge and integrate data from across the continent, which is done directly from the diverse array of groundwater monitoring sites, and all this with the ultimate goal to create a comprehensive and accessible repository of information that then reflects the conditions of groundwater in Europe. And what sets the EUGM apart is its accessibility. So we are making these datasets available through both user-friendly web services and also direct downloads. So everyone who wants to have access can have easy access to the information required. And this is done by integrating the data into the European Geological Data Infrastructure, the EGDI platform, where we follow the standards set by the Open Geospatial Consortium. So and this will guarantee that our data is interoperable and seamlessly working alongside other key environmental data sets if one wants to put them next to it. So, and in a way, you could say that throughout the EUGM, we are not just compiling data, but we are also kind of weaving a network of knowledge. So next slides, please. So once all this data is available, don't see the next slide yet. Thank you. Once all this data is available, you can click twice more because this is kind of with some animations. Thank you. So once all this data is available, we conduct our analyses, which are basically happening at 3 levels. We got our drought analysis, where we're setting out to understand the essential of groundwater droughts by looking at data from the monitoring sites. To do this, we'll standardize groundwater levels, groundwater time series with an index that helps us compare basically apples with apples across the continents, across the different sites across the continent. So this is based on a standardized precipitation index, the SPI, and the standardized groundwater level index, the SGI. And with these tools, we will have a clearer picture of how droughts affect groundwater levels, letting us pinpoint when and where the droughts hit the hardest. For the analysis of groundwater level trend detection and quantification, we will use, for instance, the sand slope and Van Kentel trend tests to identify whether the groundwater levels are on the rise, holding steady, or in decline, and for assessing the speed of these changes. And last but not least, we are identifying strategic aquifers that demonstrate a strong ability to basically withstand the pressures of over-abstraction. And these aquifers are kind of the backbone of sustainable water supply, so they are really crucial for their capacity to recover from extensive water withdrawal. And to gauge their resilience, we are turning to the mean groundwater residence time index, which is a tool that helps us to understand how long water stays in these systems. We can go to the next slide. So another crucial item is forecasting. Next slide, please. Thank you. What we do is to provide an operational, and this is very important, an operational pan-European forecasting of groundwater levels at the short term, so which means up to 1 year, and long term, so that means decadal and up to the end of the century. The forecasts are done using machine learning methods, so it's a purely data-driven approach. These forecasts will be made available through EGDI as well at 2 levels, basically. So one at pan-European map for selected but representative monitoring sites, where we show the forecasts in classes. That means with respect to a reference periods, so from low to high, and the second level is at the monitoring site itself, where one can get much more in-depth information on the skill score of the model, on historic data, trends, and so on. And just for one more note, maybe on operational, so short-term forecast will be calculated once a month and put up on EGI or EGDI, while the decadal forecast will be done once a year, and the long-term forecasts every once in a while, depending on the publication of the next IPCC report. Oh, and I think I forgot to mention that this is not only about forecasting, but also and especially with the current groundwater levels will also be displayed through this platform, so one can get at a glance an overview of Europe's current status of groundwater levels. So next slide, please. So what are the visual outcomes of this project? So for the first time, the user will be able to get an instant pan-EU overview of current groundwater levels, which are classified according to their respective reference period. So we can instantly see whether the water tables are low or high or somewhere in between. We also will be able for the first time to get a pan-European outlook of the groundwater levels at the short term, the mid-term, and long term, and again with all forecasts classified into the mentioned reference periods. But there will also be more in-depth information available at individual monitoring sites. Yeah, we can look at the time series itself, historic time series, model skills, trend analysis, and so on. We may also try to create maps, so going beyond point information as shown here in this example on the right-hand side from the Swedish Geological Survey. And all this is integrated in the EGDI platform, so one can put our data sets alongside information we provide on our groundwater levels. So, and the last slide, please, slide 8. Thank you. To wrap up, I think the relevance of this project to the EU groundwater policy efforts is clear. This project supports significantly the efforts by streamlining the way we report, store, and visualize groundwater levels, offering a clear picture of the quantitative status. So we align with EU directives aimed at maintaining groundwater's quantity, providing the essential data for sound management decisions. And moreover, this project addresses the critical need for sustainable groundwater management amidst the challenges of competing demands and climate change. And this is done by tracking short-term variations and long-term trends in groundwater levels, which is laying the groundwork for adaptable strategies. And that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I'd like to hand over now to Klaus Hinsby, who will moderate any questions that we have. I believe we already have one in the Q&A section. Please do ask if you have any questions at all of the team.
Yes. Thank you, Tracey, and thanks to all our speakers, to Stefan, Julie, and Peter, and Tracey yourself for the nice presentations and introduction to the groundwater part of the GEUS, the Geological Service for Europe. I see so far no questions in Q&A, but in the chat we have a question. Explain, please, would GEUS be interested in monitoring data from wells located in the occupied territory of Ukraine? And maybe I can start myself as the deputy chair of the Water Resources Expert Group of the EuroGeo surveys. Certainly, we are interested in these data from Ukraine and the occupied part of Ukraine. And if you go to a EuroGeo surveys website, you will also see that the EuroGeo surveys condemns the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I don't know how you will get access to the data from your occupied part, but maybe you have them already, and certainly we will be interested in. I guess you have seen that on some of the maps we have data from Ukraine included in the different map views. Maybe you have also, some of you wondered why parts in some maps, some countries are whited set up. It's because we are not having resources to do everything all over at once, but this will be developed on as the project continues.
Could I maybe
from my side? Yes.
I was just going to say perhaps the three speakers would like to unmute themselves and go back on camera so that we can see you all and encourage more questions. Yeah, and please also, if some of you have something to add to what I've just said.
Yes, maybe I can say that, of course, we Ukraine answered the questionnaire, and we will be happy to have as much data as possible to have. And for the quality data, the criteria is that we are collecting the data coming from wells that are used for the European reporting. So of course we will consider data from Ukraine.
Thank you, Julie. Anything more to add, Peter or Stefan?
No, I don't think so. It's, as we know, Ukraine is partner in the project, and they have filled out the questionnaires as mentioned by Julie and also by Stefan, I think, and so yeah, I will think I will leave it there.
Yeah. If nothing more on this, then we have a question also from Harvey in the Q&A part. Please expand on the range of approaches for forecasting from time series to dynamic modeling, and regarding the latter, the extent of the models. I guess this is for either you, Peter, or Stefan.
Can you just repeat the question, because I can't see that in the chat actually.
Okay. Please expand on the range of approaches for forecasting from time series to dynamic modeling, and regarding the latter, the extent of the models.
Okay, well, we are applying purely data-driven approaches. So we use machine learning, which we applied in the past quite massively for time series modeling. We are looking here at, I mean, we haven't decided on the model class yet, because there are many model classes which we can use when it comes to machine learning approaches. But we are looking at convolutional neural networks, for example, one-dimensional CNNs, which have been shown a great versatility and efficiency in modeling the time series on a short and long term. So, but as I mentioned, there are many model classes which can be explored, and the development in the field of machine learning is very fast, and the capabilities of these models are improving actually on an hourly rate. So this is also part of this project, that we look into the latest developments and test the new model classes which are developed at the moment, if they can be maybe applied to improve the modeling skill score in the end, and finally also adopted into this project.
Thank you, Stefan. I see now Harvey is very active in the Q&A. He also says please discuss integration with soil moisture monitoring. I don't know whether this is considered or.
This is actually, well, if it comes to forecasting, it is a potential input parameter, but I just see that this is going to be very difficult to implement at this large scale. And depending how you define soil moisture monitoring and where you get the data from, if it's from satellite images, yeah, but I mean, this is just the first centimeter which can be actually taken from satellites, so it might not be really worthwhile to think about this. We did some experiments a little while ago on these kind of remote sensing data, if it improves our forecasting of groundwater levels, but the outcome was not so promising. So I'm a bit reluctant to say that we're going to use soil moisture measurements in this project, simply because of this large-scale application across the entire continent, where the data density is so homogeneous, or heterogeneous. It would be nice to be homogeneous, but heterogeneous. So I think we will leave this aside. It might be applied at a small-scale study place, just to demonstrate the capabilities of additional input parameters to improve modeling skills. But beyond this, I doubt that this is going to be applied.
Thank you, Stefan. One more from Harvey here. Are you incorporating offshore geology to support consideration of groundwater marine interaction? And perhaps I can allow myself saying at least a few words on this before somebody, maybe Peter, would like to add. This is actually something that we tried to initiate already in the GEU era program, but where we didn't have enough resources for developing this further. We are still trying to do that also in the Geological Service for Europe, and we are working, trying to find actually some demo sites where we can do this at least to some extent, and look at for instance, when we are talking about groundwater, it can be submarine groundwater discharge or seawater intrusion into coastal aquifers that can be part of it. We have a little on that in the GEU era program, but hopefully also in this. And Peter, maybe you can.
Yeah, that is correct, Klaus, and thanks for explaining. And yes, so also in the GSU project, we have some cross-thematic collaboration, as you call it, across different fields, different disciplines. And so, and one of them is to look at, as you say, the offshore marine environment and groundwater. So to look at in and outflows between the marine environment and groundwater. Of course, you know, the saltwater intrusion can be a source of contamination for groundwater resources. And so this is also in this project. There's no large scale effort to do this fully, but still there are activities going on to look at this from a cross thematic perspective. Yes, I think that's about it.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, then there's one more question on Ukraine from Julia, and maybe I missed the information. Sorry, but do you cooperate with laboratories in Ukraine for groundwater quality research? And I don't, Julie, maybe, or Peter.
So within the project, we are collaborating with Geological Survey, National Geological Service. So I don't know what is the collaboration in Ukraine between the partner of the project and the laboratories, because it's at national level. So I can't answer to this question. The entry point for the project is the geological survey of each country. And maybe just to start to answer to the second question related to the downloading and the data. So each country is in charge to provide to the project reliable, representative data for the project. So the validation of the data is at national level, and then we will combine and harmonize the analysis of each national data set.
Thank you, Julie. Another question from Nina, if I pronounce it correctly, who downloads the data to the EU-wide database, the geological surveys, or do you retrieve this data from national public databases? How do you deal with harmonizing the data, metadata, terminology, etc.? And are EEA countries involved? They sure. Peter, maybe you?
Yes, EEA countries are certainly involved, and yeah. So excuse me, could you just repeat the first part of the question? On the
who downloads or uploads the data to the EU-wide database, and so that must mean EGDI. And that is the geological surveys. That is all the partners of the project.
Yeah, this is this is still ongoing work. I have no. Maybe Stefan or Julie, you have some details on this?
Yes, what we can say is that each country is providing a data set, and then the who we don't know if we will ask each country or if we will do it, but we will have a worked database for working, and this database will be fed by each country. And then at the final end, I don't know who, but each country is in charge of providing the data, of course.
But maybe I add something for the quantity, because the structure is a bit different. For the analysis which I presented, like trend analysis, drought analysis, and so on, we gather the data from the data holding organizations or through the geological service if they are not the data holding organizations. And this is done through a data model which we have defined in the core group of our projects. And this is also aligned with requirements which are set by the work package, which is dealing with the EGDI in this project. And this will be done. This will be like sent by email basically, or by uploading the data in the clouds. So this is like for this non-real-time data basically. But when it comes to real-time data, so looking into the data which shows us the current groundwater level, and where we also do our forecasting. So this is data which needs to be transferred like automatically through an API, for example. And so then we retrieve directly through the API if existing at the individual data holding agency, the groundwater levels, and basically harvest them into the EGDI and then deal with the forecasting itself.
Can I just reiterate something that Stefan's just said? There are work packages in this project that are very specifically focused on harmonizing data, on putting a framework together, on looking at common terms, and so all of the data that is collected in the different areas, as we looked at the project at the beginning, are all brought together and harmonized by people who are focused solely on making that happen. So yes, but we do rely a lot on people giving us their data and sharing their data with us, and very much work often has to be done on that. So there's a lot of hard work going on in the background.
Yes, maybe we can add that this work package is actually the largest within the GSEU project, harmonizing and presenting data, displaying them on EGDI. So yeah, as Tracey says, there's a lot of hard work going into this. And maybe I can also add that generally speaking, the depending on the data, how to upload them and get access to them and get them on the portal varies between the different types of data. Sometimes, without knowing all the details, as I'm not a data scientist, sometimes they do harvest the data directly from the different surveys across Europe into EGDI. Sometimes they get the data, or we provide or send the data, as Stefan mentioned, directly to them, the people uploading them to EGDI. So it depends again on what types of data that are uploaded into EGDI.
Klaus, there's another question in the chat section, and just to say that I've just popped the link for the EGDI website into the chat. If anybody would like to go and have a look at that, you're very welcome.
Yes, okay. That's a question to Julia. I think data regarding underground sources, water quality, from which organization are you accepting data? I think it says.
Yeah, I will answer the same. Each country is in charge of providing data that are acceptable. Each country has its own knowledge and its own monitoring laboratories. So for GEUS, GEUS, BRGM won't validate data from other countries. We will work with the geological survey to provide the valuable data.
Thank you, Julie. Have you seen further questions, Tracey? I don't see any further questions.
No, I don't think there are, but I think maybe in answer to that last question about from which organisations are acceptable, I think it's probably just worth getting in touch with the geological survey of your country if you have data sets. Would that be the way to do it? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. That's the entry point to EGDI.
Yeah. I don't think we have any more questions, and it's great timing because it's 2 minutes to the hour. So I'd just like to thank Klaus, Stefan, Peter and Julie for their contributions today, and thank you all for joining us for this webinar. It will be available after the event, and you will be able to find out more by looking at the GSEU website, and of course I have put in the link in the chat to the to the EGDI website, so you can go and have a play around. It's good fun, actually. There's a lot of serious work in there, but actually it's really quite good fun to have a look at the kind of data that we've collected so far. So
I totally agree with you, Tracey.
Thank you. Who doesn't like a map, right? So thank you all for your time today. Thank you very much to all those who've joined us. We very much appreciate having you, and we will keep you posted on any, there will be some more on the different themes of the project coming up in the future. Thank you very much for your time.